Hello, this is Peter, talking to you from beautiful Sedona, and today I want to talk to you about your identity. And why I want to talk about identity is because it's so critically important for us to know who we are and what we're doing here if we expect to gain those things that we'd like to experience in life. So every successful and happy person can tell you who they are and what their purpose is. So it's pretty deep to talk about who am I and what am I here doing. So I'm going to make it really easy for you in this short video and help you get on track with these things so that you can go about accomplishing those things that you want to experience more quickly, more efficiently, more effectively. So I start with what's called the law of identity. Now I know that might sound like another airy-fairy concept like the law of attraction or the law of emergence or all these other things, but the law of identity was actually coined first by Aristotle, that famous Greek philosopher thousands of years ago, who talked about identity as being this: an entity that exists must have an identity, because to exist with no identity is to be nothing. And an entity cannot be nothing, so it has to exist with an identity. So existence means you have an identity. Now a modern philosopher took that teaching and put it like this: in life, we don't get what we want, we get what we are. And that's the law of identity. And it's pretty true that what you get in life is a big indicator of who you are. So who are you? And what's your identity? I'm going to give you some interesting concepts about that today, and I hope they'll really help you. The first thing to understand is that your identity can be thought of in two different ways. You have what I would call your inner identity and your outer identity. So ask anybody, who are you? And they're going to tell you an outer identity. I'm Peter Winslow. I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. I work as a coach. I facilitate people's success and happiness. And I'm from British extraction. And we always eat spaghetti dinners on Sunday, and we come from Poughkeepsie, New York, or wherever. These, I believe, are my identity, but they're not really who I am. They're things about me. They're not me, they're things about me. So that would be your outer identity. Inner identity is something completely different. In fact, outer identity is static. Once you have, like having a static goal. A static goal means once I get it, now what? Now I've got to go on to the next goal. So like a goal to have a new Ferrari. Once I get the Ferrari, goal accomplished. I've got it. Now what? Now we've got to go to another goal. So that's an example of a static goal, as opposed to a dynamic goal, which continues to give and give and give. So a dynamic goal might look like, I see thousands and thousands of people being influenced by my work, and it lifts them out of mediocrity and into feeling really good about themselves. So that would be a dynamic goal. It keeps on growing and it keeps on giving, and there is no point at which it stops. So this is true with your identity. Your outer identity is a static form. You know, I'm Peter, we're British, we're Americans from British extraction, and we live in this part of the world, end of story. To my inner identity, which is really comprised of who I am at my core. That dynamic identity that keeps on giving. And what that is this. It's my true essence. And the true essence, as I see it, is made up of three things. And those three things are these: love, joy, and peace of mind. So think about it. Everybody's going out in the world trying to find those things. You know, they're out there looking for love in all the wrong places or all the right places, thinking that love is something I get from the world. And it's not true. Until you have love within you, you've heard this already, you can't attract and hold love in anything in your world around you, because love is an internal experience of who you are. It can't be quantified by science and studies, because it's so intrinsic to our nature that it defies outward expression and outward explanations. So it's internal, love. And in fact, love is ever giving. Love never stops. You can love so many things and never run out of love. Like you can love your spouse, you can love your kids, you can love your family, you can love your job, you can love your home, you can love your car, you can love your boss, you can love chocolate, you can love your pets, you can love your clothes, you can love all these things and never run out of love. There never comes a time when you go, that's it, I can't love anymore, I don't have any more love, I'm loving too many things already, there's nothing more I can love. It never happens, because love keeps giving and regenerating. It's dynamic in form, it's not static, it continues to give. Joy, the second thing that we are within us, an internal experience of identity, is something that we have within us, and the world around us reflects it back to us. So people are looking for joy out in the world. As soon as I get that new Ferrari, then I'll be happy. As soon as my boss gets off my back, then I'll have peace. and joy. As soon as these things happen, then I'll be happy, is incorrect. You already carry the joy within you. It's one of those ever-giving dynamic presences that make us who we are, and then the world reflects it back to us. So when you buy that Ferrari, the joy isn't coming out of the steering wheel. The joy doesn't come out of the metal and the rubber and the leather and the other things that make up that car. It's joy coming out of you that's brought forth by your present circumstance when you are being present with that circumstance. And it's always giving and dynamic. Joy. So we bring joy to the world rather than expecting the world to give us constant joy, which can't happen. It's a dysfunctional expectation that always leads to disappointment. And the third thing we have that we always carry with us at all times is peace of mind. And boy, that's the elusive one that everybody's looking for. And they're looking out in the world. I'll know peace as soon as my kids start doing what I've asked them to do. Or I'll know peace when my neighbor moves out and I get a neighbor who really respects my space. Or I'll find peace as soon as things go my way and the politicians do what I'd like them to do. No, peace is already in you, giving, providing, growing dynamically. So be aware of that as your identity. Love, joy, and peace. In fact, you've probably heard of people who are called energy vampires, who just suck your energy like crazy. You know, everybody knows people like this that can burn you out just from spending an hour with them or even less. You know what they're sucking out of you? Your love, your peace, and your joy, because they are so disconnected from their own levels of love, peace, and joy, and they don't know who they are at that level. They've covered it over with layers and layers of what we'd call my story. And the stories involve thinking, and it becomes static. There's no means to an end there. They just suck more and more energy from you as they go along. You know somebody like that? Maybe somebody close to you? Somebody that you're aware of right now? An energy vampire? What would solve that issue for them is being in touch with their love, peace, and joy, because those things continue to keep giving and giving and giving and giving. So when you identify yourself as being the love, peace, and joy that you are within you, we could call your spiritual self or higher self or true self. When you identify with that, you constantly grow, you constantly shift in awareness and abundance and ability. So I want you to think about that as your identity and who you are going forward here. Thanks for listening. I'm glad that you were with us today. Hope you enjoy this video. Be well and prosper.